may be seated. The Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar,
Excused.
Baumgardner, Cook, Corum, Court, Crowder, Donovan, Finberg, Fields, Garcia, Gardner, Guzman, Hill, Holbert, John, Jones, Kagan, Kafalis, Kerr, Lambert, Lumberg, Marble, Martinez-Humanic, Merrifield, Moreno, Neville, Priola, Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Tate, Todd, Williams, Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. With 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused, we have a quorum. Everyone, would you once again please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, the Honor Guard from Douglas County, Deputy Jay Carnes, Deputy Gage Walpole, Deputy Scott Bird, and Deputy David Stark.
Colors left, march. Detail, halt, present, arms.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we will have a musical performance of Amazing Grace performed by bagpiper Deputy Tim Lambert of Adams County. Senator Corum, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members and guests, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Colors right, march. Mark time, march. Forward, march. Mark time, march. Forward, flat. Forward, march.
Senator Williams, approval of the journal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the journal of Tuesday, March the 27th, be dispensed with, and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You've heard the motion. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions.
Motion is for the Senate to proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 9?
Senate Joint Resolution 9 by Senators Cook and Baumgardner and Representatives Sanders and Sias concerning declaring the week of May 13th through 19th, 2018 as Police Week, and in connection therewith declaring May 15th, 2018 as Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 009, and ask that it be read in selected portions.
Mr. Carpenter.
Senate Joint Resolution 9 by Senators Cook and Baumgardner and Representatives Sanders and Sias concerning declaring the week of May 13th through the 19th, 2018 as Police Week, and in connection therewith declaring May 15th, 2018 as Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the law enforcement agencies within the state of Colorado play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of the state of Colorado. And whereas it is important that all citizens of Colorado know and understand the duties, responsibilities, and challenges of their peace officers. And whereas it is important that peace officers throughout Colorado recognize their duties to serve the people of this state by safeguarding the life and property, protecting citizens against violence, disorder, and deception, and protecting the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the law enforcement agencies within the state of Colorado have grown to be modern and professional agencies that unceasingly provide a vital public service. And whereas the following peace officers made the ultimate sacrifice while serving the state of Colorado. In 2006, Jared Jensen and Kenneth C. Jordan of the Colorado Springs Police Department and Michael D. Thomas of the Aurora Police Department. In 2007, Douglas D. Byrne of Aurora Police Department and Zachariah E. Templeton of the Colorado State Patrol. In 2008, Nicholas Hine of the Pueblo Police Department. In 2009, David J. Kinnernecht of Montrose Police Department. In 2010, Samuel K. Brownlee of the Weld County Sheriff's Office. In 2011, Jay Sheridan of the Lyman Police Department and David Roberts of the Denver Police Department. In 2012, Jeremy Bittner of the Inglewood Police Department, Selena Hollis of the Denver Police Department, Matthew Tyner of the Colorado Springs Police Department, Lead William DeFusco and Warren W. Watts of the Pueblo County Sheriff's Office, James Jeffrey Davies of the Lakewood Police Department, and Mary K. Rickard of the Colorado Department of Corrections. In 2013, Thomas L. Clements of the Colorado Department of Corrections. In 2014, David Michael Baldwin of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. In 2015, Garrett Swayze of the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs Police Department, Jamie Jurcevics and Taylor Tifo of the Colorado State Patrol, and Sean Renfo of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. In 2016, Travis Russell of the Los Animas County Sheriff's Office, Nate Kerrigan of the Park County Sheriff's Office, Derek Gear of the Mesa County Sheriff's Office, and Cody Donahue of the Colorado State Patrol. And in 2017, Zachary Parrish III of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. Whereas it is fitting and appropriate for the citizens of Colorado to join together in commemorating peace officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their community, and in doing so, have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 71st General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that we, the members of the General Assembly of the State of Colorado, hereby proclaim the week commencing May 13th, 2018 as Police Week in Colorado in recognition of peace officers' efforts in safeguarding the citizens of Colorado, and call upon all citizens of the state and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe Police Week. And that we, the members of the General Assembly of the State of Colorado, hereby proclaim the day of May 15th, 2018 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in recognition of those officers who through their courageous deeds have made the supreme sacrifice or who have been disabled in the line of duty, and call upon the citizens of Colorado to recognize and participate in the observance of this worthy occasion. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to John Hickenlooper, Governor of Colorado, Sharon Gibson, President of the Colorado Chapter of Concerns for Police Survivors Incorporated, Diane Bernhardt, Executive Director of Concerns of Police Survivors Incorporated, Barry Bratt, Chairman of the Colorado Law Enforcement Memorial, Stephen Scholes, State President of the Fraternal Order of Police, Colorado State Lodge, Michael Violet, Executive Director of the Fraternal Order of Police, Colorado State Lodge, Ben Leach, President of the Colorado Police Protective Association, Stan Hilke, Executive Director of the Colorado Department of Public Safety, Colonel Matthew C. Packard, Chief of the Colorado State Patrol, Chief Dwayne Oakes, Board President of the Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police, Chad Day, President of the County Sheriffs of Colorado Incorporated, and John Camper, Director of the Colorado Bureau of Investigation.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, please be seated. I want to mention just something about the resolution. The last name on there was Deputy Parrish, and that was because he died in 2017. There were two other deputies that we are recognizing today and their families, but their names will be on the resolution next year in for the 2018 year. And I also just want to point out the memory table that we have up here. We posted that last year. I'd like to start it as a tradition. I'm not going to go into what it means, but throughout the day, it's going to be there all day in recognition of Deputy Zach Parrish. And his picture and badge and hat and flag are up there in his honor. Well, we almost made it. We almost had that rare and exceptional year in 2017 where we didn't lose a single law enforcement officer. But then on New Year's Eve, a derelict, a deranged criminal, a man who didn't care about society's laws or the sanctity of human life shot and killed Deputy Zach Parrish. Since then, we've had two other deputies killed in the line of duty, making today a truly somber occasion, because every time an officer, a trooper, or a deputy dies, a little bit of us here in this chamber dies with them, also along with the state of Colorado. Deputy Parrish was taken from us way too soon. He served the people of Douglas County for just under 3 years, married to his wife Gracie, and they have 2 young daughters. Shot and killed for nothing more than doing his job. Several others were also shot by a lone gunman, a cold-blooded coward who ambushed the deputies while investigating a disturbance between 2 roommates. Deputy Parrish, along with Deputies Doyle, Davis, Pelley, and Sergeant Byer, responded to a call of an individual suffering a psychotic event. While attempting to place this person on a mental health hold, Deputy Zach was shot and killed. While trying to rescue their fallen deputy, Deputies Pelley, Davis, and Doyle were also shot, and Sergeant Byer was injured. A small piece of us in the state of Colorado died on New Year's Eve along with Deputy Parrish. But this is what deputies and troopers and officers do day in and day out. They put their lives on the line to protect the safety and security of our citizens. Approximately 3 weeks after Deputy Parrish was killed, on January 24th, Deputy Heath Gum from the Adams County Sheriff's Office was gunned down while attempting to arrest a man for an assault. After contacting the man, the suspect took flight behind a house and was pursued by deputies. When the deputies caught up with him, he produced a gun and opened fire, killing Deputy Gum with the Adams County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Gum was married for 5 years to his wife, Natasha. And a small piece of us in this chamber and a small bit of Colorado died with Deputy Gum that day. February 5th, Deputy Flick from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, working with the Auto Theft Task Force, responding to a report of a stolen vehicle. When he and others arrived on scene, they encountered the suspect and tried to take him custody. The suspect resisted and briefly struggled. The suspect opened fire, hitting Deputy Flick and shooting Deputy Scott Stone and Officer Yance from the Colorado Springs Police Department and injuring Deputy Jake Amberhash. Deputy Flick worked for the Sheriff's Office 11 years and married to his wife Rachel and had 2 7-year-old twins. A little bit of us in this chamber and a little bit of the state of Colorado died with Deputy Flick on that day. People ask me all the time, what does it take to become a deputy or a police officer? I usually respond with the usual, a high school degree, but college would help, be in relatively good shape, pass a written and oral test, a polygraph background check, and a psychological test. But in all honesty, that's not what it takes to become a peace officer. It takes benevolence, it takes boldness, courage, compassion, decisiveness, discernment, discretion, faith, generosity, gentleness, honor, humility, a sense of justice, self-control, sensitivity, tolerance, truthfulness, and virtue. So when people ask me now what it takes to become a law enforcement, that's how I answer. And I think it's important to remind ourselves why we run this resolution for our fallen officers every year. It's one small way we can say thank you to them and their families for their ultimate sacrifice. We do it in honor of them, to show our appreciation, to learn from them, to show our respect and our love for them, and to give them tribute for all they've done for us. I told you what it takes to become a peace officer. Now I want to tell you what kind of people these fallen deputies are that we're honoring today. They are people who are willing to give their lives for their fellow man. They are champions of the underdog, the victims of crime, defending the helpless against the predators of society. They are guardians of the Constitution, guardians of freedom, liberty, and civil rights for all people. They are protectors of life and property. They are idealists, because I have never met a cop who didn't think they could change the world. Most of all, they're heroes. You know, in our society, we use the term hero loosely, and we refer to movie stars, football players, our boyfriends, girlfriends, and even rock stars as heroes. When in actuality, these people have done nothing brave and nothing gallant, nothing extraordinary, nothing more than being able to play an instrument or throw a ball. I submit to you all that these people we are honoring today are true heroes in every sense of the word. They are the men and women sitting along the walls here on the floor of the Senate, and if any were up in the gallery. But the funny thing is, if you were to ask any one of them, any of the officers, deputies, or troopers, if they think they're heroes, I am confident that every single one of them would say, no, we are not heroes. We're just doing what comes naturally, and that's our job. I would like to end with what Admiral Chester Nimitz said regarding the Marines who took Iwo Jima. The battle lasted for 36 days, and the Marines took heavy losses. They faced an entrenched enemy who would rather die than give up. But eventually, the Marines took the island, and Admiral Nimitz said about the Marines, uncommon valor was a common virtue. Well, I think that quote can certainly apply to our law enforcement brothers and sisters who lost their lives in the line of duty. I personally want to thank everyone who is here today and to give my condolences to the families and the fallen deputies, their communities, and to their agencies, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, the Adams County Sheriff's Office, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. May God watch over you and protect you.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. 338. 338. That's the number of brave men and women who has given their lives to try to keep Colorado citizens safe over the last 149 years since records have been kept. 338 individuals who, as my colleague from Weld County said, believe that they could make a difference in their community, their county, their state, and other agencies. On a personal note, I remember the reason that I signed up to serve in law enforcement in a rural county in southern Indiana. I also wanted to make a difference in my community. When I took off my badge after the last day serving as deputy sheriff, I did not leave my blue family behind. It's a brotherhood. Wherever I go, I have brothers and sisters in blue. We have been through the same things. Our bond is strong. Our families have waited at home during our shift to see if we will return. Some don't. And if they should not come home at the end of the tour, the family becomes my family from then on. The Gums, the Flicks, the Parishes. You are family, and I thank God for you and the loved ones that you've lost. You have made the ultimate sacrifice that supported your loved ones' dreams to make a difference. But by the grace of God, He kept me safe to raise my family and go on to serve my constituents here in Colorado. God bless every one of you that has taken on this task and that you continue to serve. It's been my honor to co-sponsor of this resolution recognizing your loved ones. Rachel, Gracie, Natasha, and to the families, thank you for coming to the Capitol today and allowing us to honor your loved ones and their ultimate sacrifice. I thank God for the 338 officers who put their lives on the line since 1869, and for all those who serve today, nearly 15,000 here in Colorado. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Over the past year and a half, we have been blessed in this chamber to get to know Velma Donahue, who lives in Douglas County. Today, we have the opportunity to be blessed to meet Gracie Parrish. She's a hero. She's the bravest woman I think I've met in my entire life. She stood at a funeral, and thank you to Governor Hickenlooper and Lieutenant Governor for attending that in Douglas County. That day at the funeral, Gracie read a letter, her last letter to Deputy Parrish. It's a letter that she thought she'd never have to write, one filled with grief and sorrow, pain and heartache, and she was able to read that letter without breaking down. But a letter also filled with pride and joy. Joy for the amazing 10 years they spent together, and the pride that she had in who he was. We often speak at these memorials, these resolutions, that President Lincoln noted at Gettysburg that we politicians can't add or detract to the sacrifices made by the men and women who serve our country and our communities in law enforcement. We deal in the commodity of words here. We have to remember that. There's nothing that I can say or do, nothing that we can vote upon here that makes these sacrifices more or less. They are heroic. Gracie, I hope that as you read that letter to your daughters, that this resolution and this time that we spend as the state senate in honoring Zachary's sacrifice and all those others, that the words you share with your children about their dad and your husband, I hope that in some small measure that the 35 of us and those who come after us can show respect and honor to who he was and who you are. God bless you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Joint Resolution 9? Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. And good morning, colleagues, and to all the men and women who are wearing the uniform as law enforcement. I say thank you. Thank you for your service. Because when I think about the line of duty, truly, you are on the line every single day that you put on that uniform and you make your way out into our communities. And it takes a very unique and special person to be able to put on that uniform. Not only you, but also your family. They live with the stress of wondering if they're going to make it home. That is a heavy, heavy burden. So my heart is heavy today because we've had far too many of our law enforcement family members be killed in the line of duty. And when a police officer is killed, it doesn't just affect the agency that they work with. That loss also affects our state, and it affects our nation. I had the opportunity to attend the funeral services for the officer that was lost in Douglas County, Zachary Parrish. It wasn't my first attendance at a fallen officer's service, but there was something very unique about this service. What I saw and what kind of caught my attention is the rituals that is involved. There is a really rich ritual that's involved once a fallen officer has passed on the other side. What I saw is a gathering of law enforcement all around the nation paying tribute. I saw officer badges and sheriff's badges from New York, from Oklahoma, from Hawaii, from Wyoming, of course, Denver, Aurora, Lakewood, Longmont. They were all there as a family. But like my good friend, majority leader, I sat next to him at the funeral service. Thank your wife for giving me all those tissues. But you're absolutely right. When I saw the strength of Gracie, talking about her family and her love of her husband, it broke me down. The funeral was well attended. Lots of people were there. And at the end of the service, they had this recording. And I was kind of confused a little bit because, I was saying, what? There's a live mic somewhere. I was really confused because they were calling for the officer. And what I learned is at the end of the service, they have an end of watch call. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, you can find it on the internet. You can find it on the, under Parrish name. I'm quite sure it will pull up for you. But that really touched my heart. When I think about those who wear the uniform, I believe that we ask far too much from you. As a lawmaker, I believe that we should be making sure that you have the adequate funding that you need. And sometimes I believe that we fall a little short there. I think that we ask you sometimes to be social workers. We ask you to be parents and teachers and drug counselors. And we ask you to check on different neighborhoods. And there appears to be, from time to time, tension between law enforcement and the community. But I want you to know that I respect the work that you do. It's important work that has to be done. You are truly saving lives, you're protecting our neighborhoods, and you're catching the bad guys. But for those who have lost a loved one in the line of duty, please know that we will never forget their service. And sometimes in law enforcement, it's not just that someone is shot and killed. Sometimes they're injured. And there may be disabilities that are associated with that. In the line of duty, they are taking a tremendous amount of risk and sacrifice. And I'm looking at the chief of the Sheriff's Department. I have to mention you because I watched you on TV. And I watched you doing the service. And when you're a leader, you have to lead. And what I saw him do was to facilitate the healing process, not just for his agency, but for the community. So I want to thank you for your leadership, and God bless you all, and you are always in my thoughts and my prayers. Thank you.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 9, marking May 13th through the 19th of this year as Law Enforcement Week. For all of you sitting around the chamber, for the families who are here, for those who have lost loved ones, what I have always said, whether it's our military forces or you on the ground here protecting all of our citizens every single day, we appreciate you and all that you give to our communities. I know you don't hear that very often from members of the community, but I'm here to say that we do appreciate you. And the fact that you're out there every day in those uniforms, men and women alike, serving together as brothers and sisters in a huge brother and sisterhood across the nation is amazing. And I also got excused to go to Deputy Gumb's funeral. I had not been to a law enforcement funeral before. I had seen them on TV. But to actually attend one of those and see the love, the caring, the camaraderie that the parents, those of the fallen, those of you that are friends of the officers that have fallen, and the good words, the funny stories, the kind things that are shared, very oftentimes the public never hears. They don't see it. But the public, I'm here to say, expects that you're going to be out there doing your jobs every single day. For them, you are a bright, shining light in keeping our communities safe. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank the senators for bringing this. I think it's very important that we talk about this. But unfortunately, we talk about it and we go on with our lives. And that doesn't always happen in this community. I think maybe the sponsors understand that you have a split second to make the decision to take a life or you lose your life. Senators, these two may understand. The rest of us have no idea. I happen to have some friends on this list that have been lost. We think about them often, we see the families, but we never forget. And it somewhat bothers me that here we are today, we honor these fallen officers in their death. But where is the honor and the respect for those that are living, that are serving today? Thank you.
Senator John.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I would be completely remiss if I did not come today, being my 16th and final session, to say a very, very special thank you to all of our law enforcement, to pay tribute to the fallen officers, of which we, of course, have had some throughout the state, as well as Jefferson County, which I have had the privilege of working with some of the officers. As many of you know from past discussions, I had the privilege of serving as a victim advocate for 4 different police departments in Jefferson County. And while we are absolutely paying tribute to those that have fallen, I do want to come and thank you for the service that you've given. Because when everybody else was running out, you were running in to secure the facilities. You kept that secure so that I could go in and do my job and work with the victims. And you know, I think that people don't truly understand all of the things that you all see and the memories that you'll never be able to get rid of and the situations that you walk into every single day, many times not knowing what you're walking into. I think that there's times when those memories just stay with you. I know it's been several years now since I served, but there are memories that I still think of. I think of the 2-year-old boy whose father punished him for soiling his clothes by turning on the gas stove and setting him on top. That officer never be the same again. I think of the 4-year-old boy whose mom made the really bad decision of leaving him home alone, and all he wanted to do was cook some food. He died in the fire. I remember my first suicide, and without the officers there, you know, you're taught. You're there to serve. Your emotions have no place there. And it was so many times because of the officers, because of all of you, that I was able to do that. I remember my first suicide, the same age as my son. Gone to school, the same place my son had gone to school. And I thank God the officer was there. It was difficult to separate. It is not about me. And the officers helped me through that. When we're in there to get a victim out and the perpetrator is not in custody, thank you for keeping the premise safe so that we can go in and do our jobs. And Molly, I still wonder what happened to Molly. And you all have hundreds and hundreds of these. Whatever happened to little Molly? The officers sat with her at the kitchen table till I got there. They were working on her mom, who had overdosed on drugs. And as I sat with her at the kitchen table, she kept apologizing because she hadn't had a chance to clean up the kitchen. She was 10. She hadn't had a chance to clean up the kitchen yet because she'd had to cook for her and her little brother. And that officer sat there with her till I could get there. And I became very sad, and I said, Molly, I'm really sad right now. And she looked at me and said, why? And I said, because I'm afraid you don't get a chance to be a little girl, that you don't get to play. And she looked at me and she said, I get to play? I said, I'm so glad to hear that. When? Well, every day at recess, we get a recess at school. These officers walk into this stuff every single day. It was a privilege to serve with the police departments that I did. And I want you to know, for all the memories that you will never erase, what a difference you make in the lives of these victims and people like me that wanted to serve to be able to go in and help. It is thanks to all of you. Thank you for being here today.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would like to come down in support of this resolution. For what the police officers do for this country, I think should be acknowledged. You basically keep the fabric of our entire nation together. You're the first line of defense on anarchy, and that's very important. What you do for us cannot be emphasized enough on how much we are appreciative of what you do, but the camaraderie between you is really amazing. What I've seen just this morning, the Senator Cook has on his desk has a display of little toys, and he guards them like a former sheriff should. But I seen him pick up 2 of them and take them over to these little boys over here who were somewhat bored. You know, that's a mark of camaraderie. I think that I think your profession is very honorable, and I think I cannot say enough about what you do. I have never been a policeman, but I do remember a situation. This is in Southeast Asia, you know, that enlightened me a lot. We were under somewhat of an attack from the enemy, and this individual next to me, he said, well, this is really nothing compared to what, as a police officer, what he experienced in the Watts riots in the 60s. So I remembered that, you know, and I can only imagine what you go through on these very serious type situations. You know, but I just want you to know that we do honor and respect you, and we do appreciate very much what you do. I had to think back when the chaplain was talking. You know, the chaplains even play a very important role. I had a situation with a veteran that his family was looking for him, and the only one that I could ever get help for. This is a chaplain in Portland, Oregon, that stood up to the plate and took this on. He didn't have to, but he felt obligated, and you know, I'm forever you know, appreciative of what the police forces in other states do for us. But I just there are no words that we can say enough of what you do for us, and I also appreciate that. You know, the new hires, the young men and women coming into the police force, have the attitude of getting involved and serving and protecting, because without you, we don't have a country. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Please add Senator Aguilar to the roll. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. We renew our motion for the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 009 and ask for a roll call vote, and Senate chimes play.
The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 9. A roll call vote has been requested, and the chimes will ring out. Mr. Carpenter, would you please call the roll of the Senate?
Senators Aguilar. Aguilar, aye. Baumgardner.
Aye.
Baumgardner, aye. Cook.
Aye.
Cook, aye. Coram. Aye. Coram, aye. Court. Aye. Court, aye. Crowder. Aye. Crowder, aye. Donovan. Aye. Donovan, aye. Finberg. Aye. Finberg, aye. Fields. Aye. Fields, aye. Garcia. Aye. Garcia, aye. Gardner. Aye. Gardner, aye. Guzman. Aye. Guzman, aye. Hill. Aye. Hill, aye. Holbert. Aye. Holbert, aye. John. John, aye. Jones. Jones, aye. Kagan. Kagan, aye. Kafalis. Kafalis, aye. Kerr. Kerr, aye. Lambert. Lambert, aye. Lumberg. Lumberg, aye. Marble. Marble, aye. Martinez-Humenick. Martinez-Humenick, aye. Merrifield. Merrifield, aye. Moreno. Moreno, aye. Neville. Neville, aye. Priola. Priola, aye. Scott. Scott, aye. Smallwood. Smallwood, aye. Sonnenberg. Sonnenberg, aye. Tate. Tate, aye. Todd. Todd, aye. Williams. Williams, aye. Zenzinger. Zenzinger, aye. Mr. President.
Aye.
Mr. President, aye.
With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 9 is adopted. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
If there is no objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege to introduce some of our guests.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to share some of the names of the agency heads here, and plus we have several members of other law enforcement agencies that were shot, but obviously have survived and are here today during the last year. First off, I'd like to introduce Sheriff Tony Spurlock and Under Sheriff Holly Nicholson Cluth. She's there in the back here. Please stand when I call your name. Thank you. I'd also like to have Gracie Parrish, the wife of fallen officer Zachary Parrish, also escorted by Lieutenant Tony McCarthy. And I'm going to read now some of the deputies and their families that were injured when Deputy Parrish was killed. And if you'd all just stand and then hold the applause until after the last one, if you would. Deputy Jeff Pelley, son of Sheriff Joe Pelley and his Joe's wife Stephanie, but also his wife Kendra Pelley are here. Jeff's sister Savannah and her family. Mike and Cindy Sena, the in-laws of Deputy Joe Pelley. We have Deputy Taylor Davis, Jessica Laura Ray, Melody Taylor Davis, Theodore Caldwell Davis IV, Deputy Mike Doyle, who was also shot, and then Sergeant Dave Biner and Kristen Keith Biner. Would you all please stand? From the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Bill Elder. Please stand. Thank you, Bill. And Chief of Staff Janet Huffer. And we have, and on that fateful day, we also have here, by the grace of God, Deputy Scott Stone. Please. And we have with us the family of fallen officer Deputy Mike Fick, Rachel Fick, his wife. Elena and Levi Flick, the Deputy Flick's children. Tim and Shanoa Flick, parents of Deputy Flick. And from Adams County, Sheriff Mike McIntosh. And wife of fallen Deputy Heath Gum, Natasha Gum. I'd also like to recognize a couple of people from Jefferson County who lost their husbands in the line of duty. Crystal Baldwin, wife of Sergeant Dave Baldwin, and Crystal Renfro, wife of Sergeant Sean Renfro. I believe they might be in the chamber too. Oh, they're up in the gallery. Thank you. Thank you. And I know there are several other widows that are in the chamber, and I believe Senator Gardner is going to introduce them. But if you're a widow of a fallen officer, please stand.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think my friend and colleague from Greeley recognized some of these people who are already standing. We have a group of folks in the gallery, several of whom I've had the pleasure of working with and will continue to enjoy that privilege in the coming days on some legislation. First of all, we have Lisa Clements, the wife of our friend, many of us knew, Executive Director of the Department of Correction, Tom Clements. Pat Nadine Aman, wife of Patrolman Merle Nading of Denver Police Department. Again, Crystal Baldwin, wife of Sergeant Dave Baldwin of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. Cheryl Schwartz, wife of Deputy Jason Schwartz, Fremont County Sheriff's Department. Rachel Swayze, wife of Police Officer Garrick Swayze of the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs Police Department. Thank you. Crystal Renfro, wife of Sergeant Sean Renfro, Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. Heather Tharp and her son Mason Fulling, their family member, Deputy Sam Brownlee of Weld County. And Tim Ricard, husband of Sergeant Mary Ricard of the Department of Corrections. Tim, welcome. Thank you all, and we honor you for your sacrifice, and we honor your loved ones and honor you in your loss. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to give a shout out to the Weld County Sheriff's Office 21 Gun Salute Team, the part of the Honor Guard, and give them a big thank you. Team leader Sergeant Matt Turner, Corporal Francisco Saludo, Deputies Leon De La Fuente, Raul Barron, Crystal Moore, Joe Martinez Jr., Manuel Vangar, Jerry Martinez Dominez, Brenda Davis, and Spencer Rodriguez, and Emily Thompson from the Weld County Sheriff's Office Honor Guard out there.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd like to reintroduce Deputy Tim Lambert for the conclusion with TAPS.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Chamber. I was wondering if we can just take a few minutes in recess to thank and recognize our members.
Absolutely. Colleagues, let's be in a senatorial 5 as we greet our guests. Senate will come back to order. Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by the good senator from Senate District 11 in Colorado Springs.
The motion is to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by Senator Merrifield. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and we'll proceed out of order. Senator Merrifield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted, sir.
This was, of course, as you know, it was a really special day, and I was excited last night because I knew it was going to be a special day, but this memorial that we had today made it even more special. And the fact that my great-granddaughter was here today to see it, yes, great-granddaughter is here. Alicia is in the back. I would love to have you recognize her and thank her for being here in attendance. Thank you, Mr. President. Isn't she beautiful?
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate proceed out of order, continue to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by Senator, the good senator from Senate District 33 in Denver.
Motion is to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by Senator Williams. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it. We'll proceed out of order. Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask for a moment of personal privilege, and it will include a couple of introductions.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I am honored to share with you today and have you welcome my chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. We are having day at the Capitol today, and we have a social action committee, and our members are here to understand the legislative process and what we do here. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was founded in January 13th of 1913 by 22 collegiate women at Howard University to promote academic excellence and provide assistance to those in need. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is an organization of college-educated women committed to the constructive development of its members and to the public service with a primary focus on the African-American community. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is a private, not-for-profit organization whose purpose is to provide assistance and support through established programs in local communities throughout the world. Since its founding, more than 250,000 women have joined the organization. It is a sisterhood of predominantly black college-educated women. The sorority currently has 1,000 collegiate and alumni chapters located in the United States, England, Japan, Germany, the Virgin Islands, Bermuda, the Bahamas, Jamaica, and the Republic of Korea. The major programs of the sorority are based on the organization's 5-point programmatic thrust. That is educational development, economic development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness. So members, I would like to introduce you to members of the Colorado chapters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, including the president of the Delta Alumni Chapter, Michelle Simmons. Our president of the Colorado Springs Alumni Chapter, Pamela Miller. And our state coordinator, Michelle Tucker. So welcome, please. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Fields to tag on to that moment of personal privilege.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for this opportunity and this privilege. I'd like to say good morning and welcome to the fine women of Delta Sigma Theta, Inc. Mr. President and members, we have a saying in the Greek sorority and fraternity family. And I'm going to personalize this greeting and this message for my sisters. And it's once a Delta is always a Delta. Members, these women are all in for our community. They're all in for empowering girls and women to take their places as leaders in our world tomorrow. And I just want to thank them today for everything they do around town, in our state, and across our nation. Welcome, and thanks for being here today.
Mr. Carpenter. Committee reports.
March 27, 2018, the Committee on Finance set on consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments and recommended appointments to be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed as the Financial Services Board for terms expiring July 1st, 2021. Michael George Hurst of Del Norte, Colorado, Executive Officer of the State Savings and Loan Association and Democrat reappointed. Michael L. Williams of Highlands Ranch, Colorado, Executive Officer of the State Credit Union, Republican appointed. H. Merrick Kinsey of Grand Junction, Colorado, to serve as a public member with expertise in finance and an unaffiliated appointed. March 27, 2018, Committee on Finance, after consideration of matters committee as following: Senate Bill 208 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. March 27, 2018, Committee on Transportation, after consideration of matters committee as following: Senate Bill 216 be postponed indefinitely.
Senate Services.
Correctly engrossed, Senate Bill 205, correctly re-engrossed, Senate Bill 178 and 200, correctly revised, House Bill 1238 and 1239, correctly re-revised, House Bill 1047, 1145, and 1227.
Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the titles to all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar?
Senate Bill 205 by Senators Marble and Quorum and Representatives Catlin and McLaughlin concerning the regulation of industrial hemp as an agricultural product and in connection therewith, identifying the unprocessed seeds of industrial hemp as a commodity under the Commodity Handler Act and industrial hemp as a farm product under the Farm Products Act. House Bill 1238 by Representatives Jackson and Catlin and Senator Marble concerning the continuation of the Wildland Urban Interface Training Advisory Report and in connection therewith, implementing the recommendations of the 2017 Sunset Report of the Department of Regulatory Agencies. House Bill 1239 by Representative Landgraf and Senator Scott concerning continuation under the Sunset Law of the Environmental Management System Permit Program and in connection therewith, implementing the recommendations of the Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies by allowing the program to repeal.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the three bills listed on the third reading of bills consent calendar: Senate Bill 205 and House Bills 1238 and 1239.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? Are there any no votes on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? The motion for the body is the adoption of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 205 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Tate, Senator Lundberg, Senator Lambert, Senator Crowder, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Neville, Senator John, Senator Scott, Senator Merrifield, Senator Todd, Senator Williams, Senator Aguilar, Senator Moreno, Senator Priola, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Fenberg, Senator Court, Senator Kafalis, Senator Fields, Senator Jones. Majority Leader Holbert, Senator Kerr, Senator Donovan, Senator Kagan, please add the President. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1238 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Tate, Senator Kerr, Senator Todd, Senator Court, Senator Neville, Senator Priola, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Merrifield, Senator Kagan, Senator Cook. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1239 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Tate, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Priola, third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 1?
Senate Bill 1 by Senators Baumgardner and Cook and Representative Buck, concerning transportation infrastructure funding.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request permission for a third reading amendment.
Would you like to move the bill?
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I move L001.
Would you like to move the bill?
Oh, what? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Senator Baumgardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 1 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Now I believe there's a request or something forthcoming. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request permission for a third reading amendment.
Please explain yourself, Senator.
Yes, Mr. President. Basically, it's a technical amendment because when we were working on Senate Bill 1, the drafter left out several key components, and this is just adding it back into the title and into the body of the bill.
Absolutely. What he said.
You're throwing poor Mr.
What? Yeah, he's right there. Hi, Jason.
No, it was an honest error. It was not anything intentional. It was a lot of moving parts, Mr. President, with a lot of amendments flying around. So,
thank you
happened
for
to
that.
all of us.
Thank you for that. The motion is for a request for permission to offer a third reading amendment. Are there any? No, this isn't a recorded vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and permission is granted. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read Amendment L053?
Amendment L053, Senate Bill 1 by Senator Cook.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move L053 and ask for a favorable vote. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also ask for an aye vote on this. One of the things that happened during the debate when we passed the good senator from Grand Junction's amendment that said that the money had to go for new projects, it messed with the formatting of the bill. And so the bill drafter had to extract that to make sure that that would happen. As intended by the amendment. So this is indeed a technical amendment, and I would encourage an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L053? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L053. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment L053 is adopted. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 1? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 1. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 1 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Zenzinger, Senator Williams, Senator Kafalis, Senator Fields, Senator Todd. These are co-sponsors on Senate Bill 1. Senator Merrifield, Senator John. I think everybody over here is on. Senator Priola. Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would request my name be removed as a co-sponsor on Senate Bill 1.
Senator Neville's name will be removed as a co-sponsor from Senate Bill 1. Okay, Senator Crowder, Senator Scott, Senator Coram, Senator Court, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Hill. Okay. General order, second reading of bills. back that up a little bit, Mr. Carpenter. Senator Garcia, co-sponsor on Senate Bill 1. Okay. General Order, second reading of bills. Senator Hill.
Mr. President, I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the purpose of General Order's second reading of bills.
Motion before the body is for the Senate to resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the General Order's second reading of bills calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the General Order's second reading of bills calendar, and Senator Hill will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Carpenter, Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to lay over Senate Bills 185, 52, and 166 to follow House Bill 1254.
Colleagues, the motion is to lay over Senate Bill 185, 52, and 166 to follow House Bill 1254. Excellent. All those in favor of laying over these three bills until after 1254, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We will lay over these three bills. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title to House Bill 1148?
House Bill 1148 by Representative Michael St. John and Senator Crowder concerning the prohibition against care requiring step therapy for covered persons with stage 4 advanced metastatic cancer.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1148. You know, 1148 is kind of an important bill. It prohibits a stage 4 cancer patient from being required by their health benefit plan to undergo step therapy. And step therapy, well, let me start here. Metastatic stage 4 cancer is a serious issue. Basically what that is cancer will start in one part of the body and show up in other parts of the body. And the way the healthcare providers has it set up is they go through a step therapy on what they recommend for treatment on this metastatic cancer. Well, the thing about it, the reason I like the bill is because what it does is get the doctor the power to actually designate what treatment is best for that patient, regardless of what the insurance company. There's been cases in the past where the providers has fought for a particular medicine that is above the step therapy for a patient. The patient recovers, but yet months and 4 years later it reoccurs, and then the insurance provider claims that the medicine that they were taking for step 4 was not efficient at all. It was a failure in that body, but the reality is cancer being what it is will come back. So I think this is a simple but yet effective bill that we should have actually empower more our medical providers to actually provide and to prescribe the medicine in which they think that person needs. If you have ever toured Anschutz with their cancer research, you know, the research is amazing. They can actually detect what the cancer and the treatment, the best qualified method for that. So I would ask for your support on this simple but important bill. It does affect you know, quite a number of cancer patients, and I think it's past time for this to be allowed. So I think that I would ask for your support to prohibit a stage 4 cancer from being directed by an insurance company instead of a provider.
Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I rise in support of this bill. I think it will potentially provide some relief, and it does not put an onerous burden on the insurers.
Thank you. Colleagues, the motion is the adoption of House Bill 1148. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1148 is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title to House Bill 1018?
House Bill 1018 by Representatives Carver and Jackson, Senators Zinzinger and Cook, concerning a requirement that education to prevent human trafficking be included in the training to obtain commercial driver's license.
Senator Zinzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We move the adoption of the committee report for House Bill 1018 and the bill as well.
To the committee report, please. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report just takes out that the department will come up with promulgate rules, and it just says it shall have this in the bill.
Colleagues, the motion before the body is the adoption of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The aye has it. We will adopt the report. Do the bill, Senators. Senator Zinzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is a Transportation Legislative Review Committee bill. This bill, what it does is it brings into the education for a CDL license some education about human trafficking. It is free of charge. It can be done on their own time online, and it offers an opportunity for those motor carriers who are the eyes and ears on the road as they are driving their loads around to be able to help voluntarily to be able to help spot and crack down on human trafficking, and we would encourage an aye vote.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the good senator from Arvada said, this came to us during TLRC, where the Colorado Motor Carriers asked for this and asked us to present this, and it came out, I believe, 12-1 out of committee. And also, Truckers Against Trafficking also testified in favor of it. It's a 30-minute program. Only new CDL drivers, applicants really have to take the class. They can do it online. It's free to the truckers. There's no cost to the state. And the reason the Truckers Association and Truckers Against Trafficking want the bill is because they recognize there's a problem with human trafficking, and they want to be part of the solution, and they want to help us, want to help law enforcement identify when somebody's being trafficked. So there's 80,000, we heard, truckers going across the state of Colorado. We only have 13,000 to 14,000 law enforcement officers in the entire state. So they can be the eyes and ears of law enforcement. It's just so that they can recognize when human trafficking is occurring, and they're not obligated to report it. There's no mandatory reporting. And it's just that if they see something suspicious, they can call law enforcement because they've been trained and say, hey, I think that looks suspicious. So we would ask for an aye vote on this bill.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in support of this important bill. I've had the privilege of working with the truckers over the last probably 4 or 5 years on Truckers Against Trafficking, and they actually have a trailer that is set up, and they move it from one location to another for tours to be able to go in and actually get an idea of educating particularly youth on what is trafficking and what does it look like. And the summer program that my husband and I run in Aurora Youth for Success, they've come and shared that with our high school students in Aurora. And it has been absolutely left such an impact in knowing and understanding. So not only is it actually training the truckers, but it is also equipping the public and giving them that information. So I rise in support of this very important bill and thank the sponsors for bringing it forward from TLRC. Thank you.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also urge a yes vote on this bill. I heard it when I substituted for the good senator from Aurora on TLRC, and then I heard it again in the committee. And I want to reiterate that the truckers came in total support, the trucking industry in total support of this. Greg Fulton came and spoke on their behalf and believe that this is an excellent opportunity for truckers to learn to look for trafficking, and at their discretion, with no penalty one way or the other, if they see something they think is suspicious, they are encouraged to report it. There is no penalty, as I said, if they don't. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for truckers to be involved in helping with this extremely damaging activity of human trafficking. Thank you.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, unfortunately, that's not exactly true. The entire trucking industry does not support this. As the only guy in the legislature that actually owns a trucking company, I can tell you I'm opposed to this bill. It does not make sense to leverage truck drivers and make them now law enforcement. Why would we require truck drivers that have so much else to worry about and challenge them with now being in charge of human trafficking? We're going to start training them as we move this forward to train them for human trafficking. Members, I'm asking for your no vote. I applaud what they're trying to do. I think it's an important issue, but to challenge the trucking industry to start moving in this direction that they're now going to patrol this does not make sense. Ask for your no vote.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is nothing in the bill that requires truck drivers to do anything other than when the new applicants for a CDL, they just have to get a certificate or go through a 30-minute class that they can take online. Once that happens, there's no requirement for them to be law enforcement or to do anything else. There's no requirement for them to report. So I just want to clear that up.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought we had a problem with human trafficking. Why is it we're just pointing this toward the trucking industry? Why not have every license that is issued in the state of Colorado have this same instruction? The bulk of the traffic in this is automobiles, so if we're looking at, well, I've been just wondering if the sponsors would not take a conceptual amendment on this to include every driver's license issued in the state of Colorado. If indeed this is a problem, the way to approach it is to get everybody involved. So I think that I would like to hear from the sponsors to see if they would be interested in running this conceptual amendment to have every license in the state have the same training. Thank you.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize to my good colleague from Sterling. I misstated. It was the Colorado Motor Carriers who came and said that their organization was in full support.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. To respond to the good senator from Alamosa, that would be a bill title problem, and so I would not accept a conceptual amendment on that.
Senator Kafalas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. I rise in support of House Bill 1018, and the only comments I would add to this discussion are that I view, well, first of all, truck drivers are sort of on, well, not sort of, they are on the front lines in terms of the work that they do, often at truck stops, especially minors who are victims of human trafficking. That's where they will be propositioned. And so truck drivers are already doing some very important things, and I think this just enhances that. And finally, I view this as part of a comprehensive approach towards addressing human trafficking in the state of Colorado. And we have made progress over the years. We continue to make progress to try to protect young people in particular and prevent human trafficking. And I think this is an important piece of that, and I rise in support.
Senator Crowder.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I would ask the chair make a decision on whether a conceptual amendment for all vehicles in Colorado under this, under the bill title.
We'll be in a senatorial 5. Committee will come back to order. Senator Cook, further comments on the bill? Senator Neville, you had some comments on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep this brief. We focus on human trafficking, and there's a lot of work that's being done on human trafficking. But that's not the issue of this bill. The issue of this bill, if we're focusing on human trafficking and the actual application of law against human trafficking, we might be focused more on the law enforcement side. And if you take a look at the amount of application of that law and actually prosecution of that law, there's a dire problem in the state of Colorado. However, this bill doesn't do that. This bill says that we're going to focus on another party that might possibly interact. I guess they could interact as much as waiters and waitresses in a truck stop, or somebody that takes fees in a bus station, or whatever else it might be. So what we have here is an expansion of law, and, you know, colleagues, are we shocked that a group, a certain individual group that is already licensed is coming and asking for that? That happens all the time. And of course, we have heard, and I do appreciate my colleague from Denver making a point and stating, restating that does not represent all truckers. It's very important that it does not. But it's another licensure. We've heard about a little confusion about, oh, it's just they can voluntarily, well, at least we got clarification there. They can voluntarily report. But there's nothing voluntary about this bill, because if it was voluntary that they could take training, and if the Colorado Motor Carriers Association wished to do this, they could have all their members do this already. It's out there. They can do it, and they should be doing it. They should be doing it. But to mandatorily force this on everybody, frankly, I'm not sure if that gets our heads out of the sand with what the problem with trafficking really is. This is a problem that should be owned by everybody in the state of Colorado. When we stand up here and arbitrarily pass a law, it actually takes away from the actual ability of everybody to own the problem and the issue. So, colleagues, I know this is probably coming from a good heart from a lot of people, but it's not the answer. The answer is to get everybody involved with the issue, everybody. So I would urge a no vote on this particular bill as not a solution.
There's an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read Amendment 3?
Amendment L0.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L003 on House Bill 1018.
To the amendment, please.
Thank you, sir. All this does is strike the word commercial. So if indeed we have a human trafficking problem, everybody that issued a license in the state of Colorado will have this same voluntary training. And all it does is it changes the title. Page 2, line 7, strikes commercial. Page 1, line 103, strikes commercial.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask for a title ruling.
Will be in a senatorial 5. back to order. Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I withdraw L003.
Thank you, Senator Crowder. Colleagues, good discussion on this roll. Senator Crowder, appreciate your help on this. Any further discussion on House Bill 1018? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1018. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1018 is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title to Senate Bill 123?
Senate Bill 123 by Senator Sonnenberg and Representative Liston concerning asbestos trust claim transparency.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 123.
Senator Sonnenberg, you moved the bill. I also have an amendment from you. Would you like to go ahead and do that, or do you want to talk about the bill first?
Actually, Mr. Chair, I'm ready to do the amendment.
All right, Mr. Carpenter, will you please read Amendment 4?
Amendment L004, Senate Bill 123.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L004.
Do the amendment, please.
Members, as we discussed the other day, I listed a whole slew, and I'm not going to go through the whole process again, but I listed a whole slew of veterans organizations that want to be a part of this bill, that would like to be involved and have the transparency so they can actually get something quicker. So I just ask for your yes vote.
Colleagues, is there any further discussion on Amendment 4? Seeing none, Senator Kagan.
Members, I'd ask you to vote no on this amendment. It removes veterans from the protection that the bill in its current form, without the amendment, currently provides, and allows them to avoid the delays and hoops that they have to jump through when securing their just compensation in one of these kind of suits, and therefore I urge a no vote on the amendment.
The motion is the adoption of Amendment L004. Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And with all due respect to the great senator from Sterling, I see this a little differently. As you remember, on second readings, we talked about Senate Bill 123 and what that amendment meant. I had hoped that we had achieved a compromise in the sense that we were going to look out for our veterans who are serving. As I shared with you the other day, from organizations like the Purple Heart Association, veterans make up roughly 8% of the U.S. population, 8%, yet are impacted by mesothelioma, by exposure to asbestos. They are 30% of the cases. And I just want those members in this body to recognize that voting for this amendment undoes what we did the other day, which was saying we were going to protect the veterans. I have heard from a number of other organizations as well, and as I shared last time I was up here, that the United Veterans Council at the time last year opposed this bill. I know that they are neutral this year. I understand that they have not endorsed it. I understand that. But they are neutral. They did oppose this last year, and there are other veterans organizations, including the Purple Heart Association and American chapters of disabled veterans, who do oppose this. So I would hope that you understand that, and again, I would ask that the compromise that we had last time we had this bill on second reading, in which you all accepted that amendment, that we don't undo that work that we did. I'd ask for a no vote.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, my colleague from Pueblo, we indeed talked about this, and then afterwards, it came to my attention that actually the veteran groups, or a number of the veteran groups, wanted in. I read you a letter from Senator Sonny Borelli out of Arizona
that is retired after 22 years of service in the Marine Corps. And I'll just read the conclusion again. As a Marine and a veteran, as concerned legislators, it is our duty to protect who cannot protect themselves. I fully support your efforts and respect to Senate Bill 123 and urge your passage. And he tells me that because he carried this same legislation as a Marine in Arizona to protect them, so that the military actually would be a part, our veterans would actually be a part of this transparency and the speeded up process that this bill brings. The speeded up process that we talk about in other states that have already passed this. The transparency involved. That's why this is important. Ask for your aye vote.
As a motion is the adoption of Amendment L004. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment L004 is adopted. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now we have the bill back the way it should be, so everybody gets the same transparency, everybody gets the savings, and everybody gets the speeded up time frame. Ask for your aye vote.
Senator Kagan.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we're now on the bill. And I do want to make clear what the bill does to those who may still have doubts about that. The bill, we are told, prevents double dipping. And what it means by that, according to the proponents, is that without the bill, you will be able to sue a defendant for having caused your mesothelioma by exposing you to asbestos, when in fact that defendant is not the only defendant that has done so. And that defendant will end up paying for all your mesothelioma damages because you hid from the defendant. You hid from the defendant the fact that you had additional exposure elsewhere for which you have not yet sued or may never sue, and they may not find out about it. That is not a problem in Colorado. And I want to tell you why. I want to tell you what happens in a deposition. I have taken depositions in products liability cases. I have conducted these depositions. And let me tell you what happens in a deposition without the bill passing. Under current law, in a deposition, the plaintiff or the deponent comes in. The deponent is placed under oath. The deponent is informed that whatever they say is under oath and will be transcribed by a reporter who is taking down a verbatim transcript. The deponent is it is explained to the deponent that anything they say in this deposition subjects them to perjury and may be used in the trial on the merits. And then the deponent faces some questions. Where else have you worked apart from at the defendant's place of business? Is there anywhere else you have worked? The deponent may say, no, that's the only place I've ever worked, and commit perjury, in which case the well-prepared defendant's counsel will say, well, we have your Social Security records, we have your W-2s, we have whatever we've been able to subpoena here. We want to know where you were working between April and June of 1987. Where were you working between April and June of 1987? That was at Asbestos Exposure Limited, wasn't it? And then the deponent has to say yes or no. This is under oath. This is effective cross-examination of a deponent. And at the next deposition, if they're not satisfied that they have had all the truth from the deponent, they can say, okay, we're going to do another deposition. And at the next deposition, we are subpoenaing you to bring all your employment records of this type, of that type, of the other type. Because the purpose of a deposition is to cross-examine and to question a plaintiff under oath on the record in advance of trial. That is why it's called discovery. It is designed to produce information. Now, that's what happens without the bill. So any defendant who wants to get away with hiding the fact that somebody else was actually responsible for their damages is going to have to engage in a massive conspiracy and expose themselves to perjury by not coughing it all up at that deposition. But what would change if this bill were here? If this bill were to pass, this bill would say, okay, so you worked at Acme Asbestos Company from April to June. Have you sued them? And the answer might be no. Well, we're going to require you to sue them, and we're going to hold this case up until you've sued them. Why haven't you sued them? We haven't sued them because I only worked there a couple of months, and by the way, they have no money left. It's a trust, and I'd only get pennies in recovery. I worked for your client for 33 years, so I don't want to spend time suing them when they're penniless or virtually penniless anyway, and I only worked there a couple of months. No, we want you to sue them. We're going for a hold on this litigation unless you seek a recovery from that trust, which you've told us about. That cannot be right. And I just want everybody to understand that that is what can happen if this bill should pass. Why would they want to force a suit, which this bill authorizes them to do, the defendant? Why would they want to authorize a suit? Well, it's any time you can delay a proceeding, it increases your leverage, your bargaining power. And that is, I think, at base, what this bill is about. Giving defendants more bargaining power against plaintiffs who, in some cases, are on the verge of death and trying to get recovery for their damages. So that's what we're facing in this bill, and I urge a no vote.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to lay over Senate Bill 123 to follow House Bill 1134 as amended.
Colleagues, the motion is to lay over amended Senate Bill 123 until after House Bill 1134. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We will lay that over until after House Bill 1134. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1242.
House Bill 1242 by Representative Becker Kay and Valdez and Senator Crowder concerning the salary categorization of locally elected officers in specified counties.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1242 as well as the finance report.
To the finance report, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. This was an unusual situation. We had a bill title. I've had 4 counties contact me for a change of salary, but the reason there's an amendment on this, one of the counties actually approached me for a salary decrease, and what I've done is and that's all it was, is a decrease of 1 county. And on your desk, you'll find all 5 counties, and we're talking Saguache, Rio Grande, Grand, and Jackson, as well as Sedgwick. So that's the committee report.
Further discussion on House Bill 1242? Seeing none. I'm sorry, we're on the Finance Committee report. I apologize. Any further discussion on the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We will adopt the committee report. To the bill directly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill is very simple. We've had 4 counties actually approach us as legislators to change their salary, and that is what is on your desk. And those counties are Saguache, Rio Grande, Grand, Jackson, and Sedgwick. And as I indicated prior, Sedgwick actually wants to come on board to reduce their category of salary. It's fairly self-explanatory, but if there's any questions from anybody, I'd be glad to answer them. But I think it's a simple bill that we are responding to our county's needs and what their wants are. What is on your desk is actually the result of each one of their county commissioners' official meetings. I would not move this forward without getting their signed affidavits from their committee meetings as far as county commissioners. So I think it's a very simple bill. I would ask for your support.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I guess just a question to us all. I don't really rise in support nor against this bill, but we ran bills on this last year, and pulled counties and changed their designation. We're doing it again this year, a higher frequency than I think we did last year. So I don't think this is what was anticipated when we ran the original legislation designating counties, and I'm just asking the body as a whole to consider if we think this is still feeling like the right process and is having the intended effect of the original legislation. Is there a full public process of these counties lowering their salary request when it happens through our legislation and just a request for changing tiers? So again, not rising in support or opposition, trying to sway, but just asking this body if this feels, if we need to re-examine the original intent of the legislation, now how it's being executed in this building. Thank you.
Colleagues, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1242. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. 1242 is adopted. Majority Leader Hobart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to lay Senate Bill 192 over to follow 1134, House Bill 1134.
Senator Hobart, is that directly after that? We already moved 123 after 1134.
Just to have it follow 1134, so it would be, no, let me revise that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to lay over Senate Bill 192 to follow Senate Bill 123.
Colleagues, just a quick update. We moved Senate Bill 123 until after 1134. Now the motion is to move Senate Bill 192 until after 123. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We will lay that bill over. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title to Senate Bill 197?
Senate Bill 197 by Senator Sonnenberg and Crowder and Representative Lewis concerning an exception to the requirement that a motor vehicle clear a port of entry for vehicles transporting agricultural commodities.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 197 as well as the Agricultural Committee report.
Great. To the committee report, please. Senator Crowder.
The committee report was, it was a very simple situation. I'll let my...
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report made the change that said instead of hauling, because the only time then it would apply is if it was loaded, we included trailers, so it's easier for the State Patrol to see what trucks were actually hauling agriculture products. That's for an aye vote.
Motion is the adoption of the Agriculture Committee report to Senate Bill 197. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We will adopt the report. To the bill, Senator Crowder.
To the bill, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's a simple bill. Basically what we're trying to do is help rural Colorado economically, because there's so many times that a truck will have to go all the way through town, find a port of entry, cross traffic lanes, come back and deliver. It's really that simple. We're trying to streamline this to the point where it enhances and encourages agriculture in rural Colorado. And that's about as simple as it is.
Senator Crowder, or sorry, Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I can tell you as I look at this map of the Fort Morgan, Representative Vigil back there in the back corner, former Representative Vigil will understand, welcome sir, that any of these spots, you can see my lines here, that's the 5-mile circle around the port of entry. What we have found out in the last couple of weeks when this bill came forward, I'm now getting calls, people hauling manure out of this feedlot and this feedlot to this field over here are now getting pulled over by the State Patrol and drugged 4.5 miles back over here to the port of entry. That sure doesn't make us safer. That doesn't make sense at all. All we're asking to do is say, look, we do business in that 5-mile radius. It does not make sense when I'm in harvest and I'm hauling from the field to the feedlot or wherever 5-6 loads a day to go through that port 12 times. Ask for your aye vote.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I have concerns about this bill, but I also want to acknowledge that I think the problem that was identified in Ag Committee is a problem within this 5-mile radius. But there is a solution, and I would like for this body to explore that solution further before we do a pretty broad exemption from ag trucks having to go through a checkpoint, and that's called the special revocable permit. This is a free permit that you can apply for to exactly address this issue when you're a hauler that goes over the same route repeatedly. You do have to do it 4 times a year. You do have to have a safety record. So it's not a complete exemption like this bill contemplates, but it is a permit valid up for 3 years. And it does try to get to the goal of this bill is to balance the need for safety and inspection without impeding the commerce of our agricultural communities. I also raise a point that if we're going to consider an exemption like this for ag, then it also impacts a lot of other haulers, and they have been absent from this specific bill. So as drafted, I think this bill is a bit too broad, particularly since we have this permit out there. If that special revocable permit isn't working, I think we should first examine that and talk to CDOT how we can make that work better for our ag haulers before we take this pretty substantial step proposed by 197. Thank you.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This has not gone through my committee, which is JBC, but having been in my past a custom harvest operator, I believe this sounds like a pretty good idea and a good first step in a sense. And the reference made for some sort of a permit that would allow you to go around the regulations, that sounds extremely burdensome for a custom outfit that finds themselves going from stop to stop, starting in Wyoming and up to Oklahoma, and then Colorado or Kansas, and then Colorado, and then Nebraska, and then Wyoming, and then if you're really dedicated to this, all the way up into the Dakotas. I'd say Colorado is making themselves a very unfriendly state if we then put another complicated permit system that may be slightly functional if you're just based in one place. But let me tell you, when it's time to get the crops in, you don't have time to be running around all the other places. I mean, we, for many, many years, went through, got all the permits that were necessary at that point in time, but if we set up a regulation that, and it is burdensome to take another 3-mile trip over one direction or another, you have to have been there to understand this. But you're spending maybe 60, 70, 80 hours a week getting the job done. Let's not stand in the way of that job getting done for this very important industry in the state of Colorado. I support the bill. Not so sure I'd support the proposed amendment that was discussed.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I didn't hear the bill in committee, and so I wanted to just pose a couple of questions because I do have a note from State Patrol that is opposing the bill. And so I would just like some clarification in terms of they really believe this bill is unnecessary. Watching you show the diagram says to me, well, is there something more than what we've talked about? But my question is that currently any commercial carrier has the ability to apply for a special revocable permit. And this permit is especially beneficial to an ag hauler traveling over the same route. So it is a free permit, as I understand, just again reading what they have shared with us, allows a carrier to bypass the port of entry as on their daily run and only requires them to clear a port only once each quarter or only 4 times a year. So is it kind of like a TSA? I'm not quite sure, but wondered if maybe you could speak to that, because I know they are urging a no vote on this bill, and so I would just like clarification on that. Thank you.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The truth is, it's hard for any agency to give up any power or any authority whatsoever. The permit does nothing to help anyone. I'm telling you, this is the way the process works now. That map I showed you, Road Q, is the way truckers avoid driving their trucks through town. This road right here, that's the road they use to avoid going through town. We do that now, but I guess now I'm a criminal because I don't make this trip and come down here and then come back to go cross over the interstate and then go to the port of entry. So the question arose is, well, get the permit. What is the purpose of the permit? I clear a port once every 3 months. I actually clear a port more often than that, because if I'm on that direct route, I clear the port. But you want me to have a permit and apply for a free permit so I don't have to do or am doing what I am doing now. Doesn't make us any safer. Actually, the way the law reads now and what they're doing now by pulling trucks on county roads and dragging them 4.5 extra miles to feedlots is making us unsafer on those highways. Those trucks don't need to be on the highways. They're just going back and forth to a field. But we're dragging them on the highways to have a permit to do that normal business the way we're doing it. Doesn't make sense to me. Ask for an aye vote on 197.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to support this as someone who has a truck or two and still do them. Safety is important. And frankly, I'm going to tell you, by making these trucks clear that port is actually not safe. Let me give you a prime example. Cortez, Colorado. You come in off of Highway 145, and there's a sign there. You're going to a farm, from your farm out north of Cortez to your operation east of Cortez. There's a sign there that says, all trucks must clear port of entry. And you must clear the port of entry if you are within 5 miles of that port of entry. From that intersection, it is 4.9 miles to the port of entry. You cross 2 lanes of traffic, heavy traffic coming north out of New Mexico, and you go through the port. That's a pretty busy port. So you may wait 15, 20 minutes in line to clear that port. Go across the scales, you're okay. Then you come back and you get back on the street and you're going back through Main Street past several traffic lights, schools, to get back to where you were at 9.8 miles earlier, and you've lost an hour in the process. Many times this is the case, that hour is the case of being able to stay in the field. You may be trying to beat a storm, so you're trying to get that extra hour in, and many times it means one less load. So I think this is a good common sense bill. Ask for your support.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to lay over Senate Bill 197 as amended to follow House Bill 1199.
Colleagues, the motion is to lay over Senate Bill 197 until after House Bill 1199. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 197 will be laid over. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title to House Bill 1199?
House Bill 1199 by Representatives Catlin and McLaughlin, Senator Quorum, concerning a process for the Groundwater Commission to use for approving aquifer storage and recovery plans in connection therewith, requiring that the Groundwater Commission promulgate rules governing its implementation of the process.
Senator Quorum. Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Senate Bill 1199. That's for an aye vote. House Bill 181199.
Colleagues, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1199. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1199 is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title of Senate Bill 197?
Senate Bill 197 by Senator Sonnenberg and Crowder and Representative Lewis concerning an exception to the requirement that a motor vehicle clear a port of entry for vehicles transporting agricultural commodities.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move House Bill 181246. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Quorum, we're on Senate Bill 197 at this point. We laid that over to after 1199.
I'm sorry, we're on 197. Cool. All right.
We can go ahead and do mine. I'm fine with it.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise, report, beg leave to sit again at 5 p.m. today.
Majority Leader Holbert, I am desperately looking for a way to call that motion out of order, but I can't. Therefore, we will have to vote on the motion to rise, report, and sit again at 5 p.m. today. All those in favor, an enthusiastic aye, please. Aye. All those opposed, no. Sadly, colleagues, the ayes have it. We will rise, report, and sit again at 5 p.m. today. Truly focused on the important issues. Truly focused on the important issues.
Senate will come back to order. Senator Hill.
Mr. President, your committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will begs lead reports that in consideration of the following tax bills being seconded thereof makes the following recommendations are on House Bill 1148, House Bill 1018 as amended, House Bill 1242 as amended, House Bill 1199 passed second reading order revised place of calendar for the reading and final passage.
Senator Hill.
Mr. President, I move the report.
Actually, we don't need to move the. You can withdraw that motion.
Mr. President, my apologies. I withdraw that motion.
Thank you, Senator Hill. Mr. Carpenter, I think we are on delivery to the governor.
To the governor for signature on Tuesday, March 27, 2018 at 8:30 a.m., Senate Bill 82 and 135.
Hey, Jerry.
Mr. President, announcements. Mr. President.
Thank you, sir, and colleagues. As promised yesterday, the good Rabbi Yoshi Serebiansky brought in the matzah, so avail yourself of that in the back and grab yourself a box, or get one from Senator Fenberg's box on his desk. He's got the real deal. He's got the real deal. So make sure you grab some before you leave today or tomorrow for this weekend. So enjoy.
Other announcements. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. A moment of personal privilege, please.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, a number of days ago, I rose to this mic and tried to lend my voice to the ongoing topic of sexual harassment in this building. It was heard by many, but unfortunately it wasn't heard by most in this chamber, and I'm saddened by that. So today I'd like to take a different approach and lend my voice to the voice of others who are outside of this building. And perhaps if my words weren't compelling enough to ask for your presence in this chamber, perhaps the words of those from the rest of the state will be. Under that premise, I have a handful of emails that I would like to share with you. And also, a number of weeks ago, as I listened to the words of one of our morning prayers, there was a phrase that was said that has stuck with me, and that phrase was meditations of the heart. And so I ask you under a thoughtful quiet and under the honor that this chamber brings to us all, that while I read these emails, we also reflect on the words that we hear every morning during those times of reflection. Dear Senator Donovan and Majority Leader, I'm asking that you please remove the senator from Hot Sulphur Springs. This behavior has no place in the Senate. Women should feel safe in their work environment and not fear his sexual harassment that has gone on for many years, even before these recent events. Thank you. Dear sir, please make public the unscrupulous behavior that Senator from Hot Sulphur Springs has exhibited towards women while serving as Colorado Senator at the state capitol. His behavior is inexcusable and should be known by all of his constituents. Sincerely, a woman from Fraser. Dear Mr. President, Majority Leader, and Senator Donovan, recently an outside investigation verified a complaint against the senator from Hot Sulphur Springs that he slapped and grabbed a legislative aide during the 2016 session. As a constituent of the senator from Hot Sulphur Springs, I want to know what actions will be taken against the senator for his unacceptable behavior towards women. Please make the consequences public so that I, as a constituent, can be comfortable with the fact that he's being held accountable for his outrageous behavior. a woman from Grand Lake, Colorado. Dear Majority Leader and Senator Donovan, I live in Grand County and I'm a constituent of the senator from Hot Sulphur Springs. I'm very displeased and disturbed by his behavior towards women. What I find even more disturbing is denials and lies about the incidences. How can someone who is dishonest be allowed to continue to represent us? A woman from Grand County. Hello. Mr. President, Mr. Majority Leader, and Senator Donovan. I have lived in Hot Sulphur Springs since 1980, and I can see State Senator from Hot Sulphur Springs' house from my own. I walk my dog on the streets by his residence. I am appalled and disgusted by the senator from Hot Sulphur Springs' recent confirmed sexual harassment of a legislative aide on a number of occasions. Grabbing and slapping someone on their buttocks does not constitute any type of honorable representation in the Colorado State Senate. This man does not represent the family values of the Hot Sulphur Springs community or our state. Why should he continue in the position as state senator? Why should I, as his constituent, support him now? The consequences for the state senator from Hot Sulphur Springs' disgraceful actions should be made public. These consequences should not just be a slap, oh, how ironic, on his wrist or divestiture from any committee leadership roles. He should resign, period. It is the decent thing to do. The victim of his actions is someone's daughter, maybe even spouse, sister, niece, cousin, aunt, or trusted friend. More importantly, she is a human being and should be treated with basic fundamental decency and respect, regardless of gender or political party. Would you want a loved one of yours to be treated this way? So, Mr. President and Majority Leader, what kind of leadership are you going to provide? How can I support any leadership, regardless of political party, that supports and condones sexual harassment? Not publicly speaking about these incidences or actually doing anything about it all speaks volumes to the people who have elected you and pay your salaries. Sincerely, a woman from Hot Sulphur Springs. Majority Leader and Senator Donovan, if you take no action, you are clearly condoning Randy Baumgartner's unacceptable, pardon me. If you take no action, you are clearly condoning the senator from Hot Sulphur Springs' unacceptable behavior towards women. I urge you to address this highly unethical behavior by requiring expulsion or consequences which are made public. Voters deserve to know that you, as a Colorado State Senator, will not allow this to continue. I do not believe you would condone this behavior from the representative of your county. I am confident you will not allow it in my county either, a Grand County resident of 20 years. Dear Mr. President, Majority Leader, and Senator Donovan, I'm a 37-year resident of Summit County, Colorado. Senator Baumgartner supposedly The senator from Hot Sulphur Springs supposedly represents our county. I've never seen him here for any events during his Senate terms. He is not my representative. I ask that there be consequences for the senator from Hot Sulphur Springs' unacceptable behavior towards women, and those consequences be made public. Not one more legislative aide, intern, or lobbyist should be subject to this appalling behavior. It takes a great deal of courage for victims to come forward, and the non-response is beyond the pale. Midterms are coming up quickly, and voters are taking stock of incumbents that ignore common decency, integrity, and honorable service for the citizens of November. A woman from Dillon. President Pro Tem and Senator Donovan, I live in Grand County and I'm a constituent of the senator from Hot Sulphur Springs. I'm very displeased and disturbed by his behavior towards women. What I find even more disturbing is his denials. How can someone who is dishonest be allowed to continue to represent us? I believe the women. We deserve better from our elected officials. Stepping down from a chairmanship is not enough. There must be consequences or expulsions for his actions. And yes, this is an issue we need to talk about. Colleagues, I shared with you today just a portion of what has now amounted to dozens and dozens of emails and calls that my office has received on this issue. I'm not entirely sure why they are coming to me, but I'm honored that they have been so that I can share their voice with all of you. It has been 44 days, and the emails and the phone calls continue to arrive in my office. And for that reason, and the members of the Senate Democratic Caucus ask that the Senate resolution that we prepared and submitted for introduction on February 13th, entitled Concerning the Expulsion of the Senator from Northwest Colorado for Sexual Harassment of a Legislative Employee, be promptly introduced and brought to the floor of the Senate for debate. Mr. President, thank you for your time. Colleagues that remain in the chamber, thank you for listening.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is a required announcement as the Senate Health and Human Services Committee had bills that were not printed in time on the calendar. So we need to announce that Thursday, March 29th at 1:30, we will be hearing, and it will be a long day for those of you colleagues who are on that committee, so pack a sandwich or four. We'll be hearing Senate Bill 214, House Bill 1104, House Bill 1211, House Bill 1282, and House Bill 1155. Thank you, members.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ag Committee, we still have 3 bills up upon adjournment, so we are going to start at 11:50. You're not there at 11:50, you're absent.
So I guess we should recess as quickly as possible then. Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate recess until 5 p.m. today.
The motion is for the Senate to be in recess till 5 p.m. today. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the Senate will stand in recess.